Well, good morning. We're back again. Boy, yesterday, I was so excited about yesterday because it talked about Joseph and it talked about the things that helped really give him strength to do what he had to do. And today I want to, I'm really focusing on Joseph because he's a great example. He was a young man, of course. And Paul said to the young men, he said, it's okay that you're young. You can be an example to all of us in a young state if you have that faith and you trust in God. There's nothing so exciting to see a young man who's on purpose. A young man that's not meandering through life. Hi, I'm Jim Sunderwirth. I'm coming from the swing here in my home, and I'm so glad. Every day it just seems like that God brings things to your heart and your mind you want to share. And today I just want to focus, before we go any further, in the dream. Remember, we're right at the place where Pharaoh is looking to Joseph for him to interpret the dream. And this is an exciting time. But remember, as we think about Joseph, he had the power, those powerful things, those that we talked about yesterday. I just want to bring it to you again. We talked about the most beautiful attire was a smile, and the most powerful force was love, and the most important gift is God, and the greatest asset is faith, and the life of his greatest weapon was prayer. Why did he need all this? Why did he have to keep a good attitude? Why did he have to trust God? Well, because he was facing some different things, and he had to learn to rely upon God. Now listen, Joseph, as he went through his life, remember, he had to rely upon God in all of his trials. He did. He relied upon God in all of his trials. Remember when he went in the pit? Yes. Okay, he didn't understand it, but he said, he rested in the Lord. And then he resisted temptation. So he relied upon God. He resisted when it came time for when temptation came into his life. He rested in God in all of his circumstances. Here's the thing. Can we be content with God? Look, if you try to please people, you'll never always please them. You may please this section or this person or that person, but it'll never really where you can please everybody. But I guarantee you, if you're content and you please God, you'll be free. If you live in an attitude of saying, Lord, I'm just content with you. I'm content with what you're doing in my life. I can't say I don't understand everything. I've been through many things that I don't understand, but I was content in the fact that God understood it. Somehow, some way he understood. And Joseph had this in his spirit somehow. I don't know how he got it. It must come from the time that God gave him that dream. And when he saw it, he just said, man, God's good and God's big. And if he does all this, and I believe he will, he was content with that. Are you content with God's praise? In my life, in your life, in all of our life, if we're content with God's praise, we'll be happy. If we're content in the fact that we rely upon him and we rest in him and we rest in his provision. Paul said, I'm content whether I'm rich, whether I'm poor, whether I'm in jail, whether I'm free. He was content in God in all circumstances. And you know what he did? Now listen, we got the R's going here, and I heard this, I heard this and I thought, man, this is really good and I want to share it with you. So he relied on God in the trials, he resisted temptation, and he rested in the circumstances, content with God, knowing God's in control, and then he respected God. And this is where we're at right now. You're going to see where he respected God. He respected God and gave him the glory. There's one thing you cannot touch. When you're a Christian, you can't touch the glory. You say, to God be the glory. Everything I have, everything I've been through, all the things that I've learned is because God has been with me and he never left me, and he gives me wisdom and he gives me the ability to respond instead of just react to life. And then he refused to blame others. You know what? He was so free when time came. He didn't blame his brothers. He didn't blame Potiphar or Potiphar's wife. He didn't blame the guys that put him in jail, or even the guy that didn't tell him about the dream. He didn't blame him. He just stayed free to say, Lord, all these circumstances must have been for a reason. Even 2 years after the butler went back up, he lay there, but he didn't blame him. He recognized God's provision in all circumstances. He saw God in the big picture. Do you see God in the big picture? You see him, you know, remember, God sees the first, he sees the last, he sees all in between. He knows what's going on. And Joseph was a great example for that. And then the last one, he repays evil with good. Now, recognizing that God's provision and not blaming others, and we're going to get into that and giving God all the glory, but then we're going to come to the place and you're going to understand he stayed free, because instead of repaying evil with evil, he repays evil with good. And that's where we're going. That's where we're going to see, and that's going to help us to know what it means and the freedom we have to forgive. Wow. Okay, I'm done. I went way over another time. I'll see you tomorrow.